Attorney. I'm also involved with a skincare company in a variety of capacities.
How long have you been?
Promote that skincare.
I think since 1995.
Do you currently represent John C. Depp II, who I will be referring to in this deposition as Mr. Depp or Depp?
I do.
And is this representation an attorney-client representation?
It is.
Does it include any other type of representation of Mr. Depp other than as an attorney-client?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question on the grounds of attorney-client privilege and attorney work product. You can't answer that question without disclosing communications between himself and his client, Mr. Depp. As you're aware, Ms. Bredehoff, the court has ruled that Mr. Depp has not waived attorney-client privilege and will not.
This is a very repetitive pattern,
privilege.
continual reminding Elaine,
So you're aware of that.
Emily D. Baker has
Mr. Chu, I'm not sure that you
termed this
question.
lawyer
I
continually
was actually
asked the
asking
same
him
question
if
a
he
million
had
times.
Any other type of representation relationship with Mr. Depp other than as an attorney-client?
I think he can answer that yes or no, but I would instruct the witness on behalf of Johnny Depp not to disclose any communications you've had with your client.
No.
So just so we're clear, since we had a little bit of record back and forth, the only way in which you represent Mr. Depp is as an attorney-client representation. Is that correct? I'm sorry, Mr. Waldman?
I believe that's true.
Okay. And you are here today providing this deposition under a subpoena and then subsequent notice, correct?
Yes.
And when did you first become Mr. Depp's counsel?
I think that it was around October 2016.
And what is your role in this case as counsel for Mr. Depp?
Objection, and I would instruct the witness not to answer that question.
Okay, I'll follow the instruction.
When did you first meet Mr. Depp as opposed to first start representing him?
I first met him in October of 2016.
How is it that you came to meet Mr. Depp?
The general counsel that I referenced a moment ago asked me to go and have a meeting with him, with Mr. Depp, and to talk about a financial problem that he was having.
Did you enter into a written representation agreement with Mr. Depp when you began your representation?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question. That calls for attorney-client privilege.
Okay, I follow the instruction.
Have you entered into more than one representation agreement with Mr. Depp during the course of your representation?
Same instruction not to answer. You can't answer that without disclosing attorney-client communications and attorney work product.
Mr. Waldman, when did you consider your attorney-client relationship with Mr. Depp to have begun?
Is he allowed to answer that even?
I believe it began the night I met him, actually.
Sometime in October 2016?
Yes, ma'am.
Has the attorney-client relationship between you and Mr. Depp been severed at any point between October 2016 and the present?
Would instruct the witness not to answer that question on the grounds that you can't answer that question without disclosing attorney-client communications.
Okay, I accept the instruction.
He's a lawyer, so he knows how it works.
As Mr. Depp's attorney, you have provided him with advice. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And you have charged Mr. Depp for your advice, correct?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question. You can't answer that without
Well, most
disclosing
people don't have lawyers for free,
client
right? That's
communications.
not really.
And the fee arrangement in any event is irrelevant. But I'm instructing him not to answer on the grounds of privilege.
I accept the instruction.
Mr. Waldman, when you provide legal services in an attorney-client relationship, your understanding of that is that you provide advice and your client in turn compensates you in some manner. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, as a general matter, that's how I understand an attorney-client relationship, yes.
That's how it works,
And
Elaine.
has Mr. Depp paid you for advice?
I do instruct the witness not to answer on the grounds of attorney-client privilege. You can't answer that question without disclosing your communications with Mr. Depp.
I accept the instruction.
Well, let's go general again and see if maybe we can work at it from that perspective. So in your relationship with your clients, you provide advice and it's up to the client to determine whether to follow that advice. Would that be fair to say?
As a general matter, I do agree with that statement, yes.
All right. And by the same token, it would be up to the client to determine whether to reject your advice in whole or part, correct?
You're still speaking in general.
Correct.
In general, yes.
Okay. Now, did your relationship with Mr. Depp, and I'm talking about your attorney-client relationship, deviate from those general principles that in some way Mr. Depp is not permitted to follow or reject your advice?
Would instruct the witness not to answer the question based on attorney-client privilege.
I accept the instruction.
Now, Mr. Depp has the right to terminate your representation at any time. Is that correct?
But yes, I think it's true.
Okay. I
Mr.
think
Depp
we need to let.
would be free to terminate at any time.
My apologies, Mr. Waldman. I didn't realize you were still talking. Did you finish?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Now, has Mr. Depp terminated your representation of him at any time between October 2016 and the present?
That's the same question
Get an objection.
that I instructed Mr. Waldman not to answer before, just stated in a slightly different way, so I would instruct the witness not to answer that question.
I accept the instruction.
Now, and Mr. Depp, as the client in your relationship, is in the position to make the final decision regardless of your advice. Would you agree?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question. I don't know that I know he can't answer that question without disclosing communications with Mr. Depp. So
But also, it's pretty self-explanatory that a client can go against your lawyer's advice.
Mr. Waldman, if you were advising a client in an attorney-client relationship and you were in settlement negotiations, would it be you or the client who has the ultimate decision-making ability?
But to speculate about the question, yes, generally the client would be responsible for deciding, the ultimate outcome of a settlement. Yes.
Now, you met Mr. Depp after he and Amber Heard had split up. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you met Mr. Depp after he and Amber Heard had reached a settlement in their divorce. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So you have no personal knowledge of anything that went on during their marriage. Is that fair to say?
Well, it depends what you mean by personal knowledge.
Well,
I
he
wasn't
did know
there.
him since
Correct.
2016,
You never
though.
witnessed any interaction between Mr. Depp and Amber Heard prior to October 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have no personal knowledge of any conduct by either of them against the other prior to October 2016. Is that correct?
Again, if you're asking me, do I have any knowledge of their conduct? I think I have knowledge of their conduct. I think maybe you're asking me, did I witness conduct?
I'm asking personal knowledge, which would mean you would have had to have witnessed it.
If you're asking whether I've witnessed it, the answer is no.
Now, your initial knowledge of the relationship between Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard was based on your interviews with Mr. Depp. Would that be fair to say?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question because he can't even answer yes or no without disclosing the substance of communications with his client, Mr. Depp.
I think she's
I
trying
see.
to establish that basically he could have told
Once
his
you
lawyer
came into
any
Mr. Depp's
narrative
life
of the
and
story,
became
just
his
like
counsel, Mr. Depp
Amber Heard
filed
could have
with your
told her
assistance
makeup
a number of
artist
lawsuits.
and
Would you agree?
her acting agent, just her side of it, right?
Yes,
Did Mr. Depp terminate Tracy Jacobs as his agent before or after you became Mr. Depp's counsel?
Mr. Waldman, I would instruct you not to answer that question if doing so would require you to disclose any communications you had with Mr. Depp.
it would.
How long had Tracy Jacobs been Mr. Depp's agent at the time Mr. Depp terminated Tracy Jacobs?
And again, Adam, same instruction to the extent.
What does that have to do with him?
that answering the question requires you to disclose communications that you had with Mr. Depp. I would instruct you not to answer the question.
It would.
Was it Mr. Depp's decision to terminate Tracy Jacobs?
Again, I would instruct you not to answer that question because that could only have come from Mr. Depp in the communication with you.
I accept the instruction.
After you began representing Mr. Depp filed a lawsuit against Joel Mandel, Mr. Depp's former business manager, correct?
That's correct.
And you represented Mr. Depp in that lawsuit against Joel Mandel and his company, did you not?
I did.
But it was Mr. Depp's decision on whether to file the lawsuit against Mr. Mandel and his company. Would you agree?
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question because it would require disclosure of communications between Mr. Depp and Mr. Waldman as to who was advising who as to filing the case against TMG and the Mandel brothers. So I would instruct you not to answer that.
I accept the instruction.
Did Mr. Depp have the ultimate decision making ability with respect to the lawsuit against Mr. Mandel and his company?
And again, I would instruct you not to answer to the extent it requires you to disclose attorney-client communication.
It would.
Okay, so as we can see, there's a bit of a pattern here, just a tiny bit, of Heard's lawyers trying to get any type of information out of this lawyer. So I think we're going to pause this stream because it's really hard to sit and listen to this type of continuous same questioning, different wording. And we're going to try and do a different stream to share here, and we'll see what we think about this interview because I don't think I saw this part.
Having a conversation with Rocky and Amber after Mr. Depp and his security personnel left the building, but before Officer Science
Did the police arrest Mr. Depp?
No,
Did they issue a warrant for his arrest?
not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Drew, let's turn for the moment to May 22nd, 2016. Did you see Ms. Hurd at all that day?
Yes,
When did you see her?
at various points throughout the day. If memory serves, Raquel had committed to a jewelry show somewhere, I want to say it was downtown, I might be mistaken, it might have been out in Venice, somewhere in Los Angeles. So she was out most of the day. So I cleared my schedule to be able to be there should Amber need anything. If memory serves, either her attorney or somebody in her group had a friend come over with a locksmith to change the locks just to be safe. And I was there to make sure that happened, and just, like I said, be there for Amber should she need anything, just so she wasn't alone.
When you saw Amber on May 22nd, you don't know whether it was the morning or the afternoon. Is that right?
Now, I didn't hear what exact event happened before all of this with the locks, so I'm just trying to do a quick summary of this.
Yes.
Describe the marks, please.
To be very honest with you, I don't actually remember which side of her face it was, but I do distinctly remember there being a red mark and a small bruise on her cheekbone, and red marks just above her eyebrow and to the right side, or to the side of her eyebrow.
Did you see any swelling?
A little bit.
Can you remember anything else? Did you see marks anywhere else other than the ones you've described?
No.
Did you ever notice anyone visiting Amber Heard at night while Mr. Depp was away?
This is what I wanted
During
to
the time that
hear.
I was living there.
Yes.
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I wouldn't even be able to estimate.
Was it more than 10?
Yes.
Was it more than 20?
Yes.
Was it more than 30?
Yes.
A lot.
Was it more than 50?
Again, I can't really speculate. I was there for quite some time.
When did that first occur?
I mean, I'm not privy to her comings and goings, and she had other friends than us that were coming to see her. So,
And again, to be specific, I'm just talking about visitors at night when Mr. Depp was away.
Visitors at night.
When did that first happen that you were aware of?
I mean, I would say pretty early on, but again, there's no context to it. The other consideration that I would say is that the hallway between all of these penthouses was public right-of-way going to the pool. So my understanding of people coming and going, it might have been the public, it might have been residents, or I'm sorry, not public, it might have been residents in the building. I can't really say with any specificity.
Who was Elon Musk?
Elon Musk was a gentleman that Amber dated intermittently following the restraining order.
Okay, here we go.
Can you recognize Elon Musk?
Yes.
When did you first see Elon Musk at Penthouse 3?
I'm a little...
So here's the perfect pot, and I want you to feel how light it is.
Roasting rack?
Yeah,
The
the
roasting.
Again, I'm not quite clear exactly, but I want to say it was about 3 to 4 weeks after the restraining order was filed.
But while Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard were still
3
married, correct?
weeks after the
Yes.
restraining order was filed?
After May 22nd, 2016, did you ever see any marks on Ms. Heard?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Would you please describe, as far as you can remember, what cleanup efforts were undertaken and by whom?
Well, myself. In Penthouse 3, there was a number of pieces of broken glass and items strewn about the counters and the floor in the kitchen. Only in the kitchen, sort of around the kitchen island. In the hallway outside of the penthouses was quite a bit of spilled wine. I don't believe we dealt with that at all. And then in PH5, all of Raquel's things had been strewn about pretty dramatically, so we did our best to sort of put that back together and pack everything back up. And there were, things like piles of books and picture frames were broken, or piles of books were strewn about, and picture frames were broken and things like that. We just picked the glass up off the floor so the dogs didn't get hurt, and I think we left everything else for the time being.
Did you actually see who strewn about that's not the right verb, but did you actually see the person
Probably
who
not.
threw her clothes around?
I didn't witness firsthand any destruction of any kind.
Are you aware that Ms. Hurd alleged that Mr. Depp hit her on or about December 15?
Yes.
What, if anything, do you know about that incident?
So my recollection of that is Raquel and I had come back to the penthouses from where I don't recall specifically, sometime, I want to say late afternoon, early evening. And Raquel was supposed to meet with Amber as soon as they came back. Amber had not been responding to her text messages for some time, so we let ourselves into PH3 together to go check on her and make sure everything was okay. When we came in, the kitchen was completely, I wouldn't say it's trashed, but it was out of order enough for something to be off. And then when we turned the corner on the section of counter next to the kitchen sink, there was something written on the counter, and I don't know, I can't remember what material it was, and to be honest, I can't actually recall exactly what was written. It was something very, very weird, like all is such a fraud or something akin to that.
You never saw Mr. Depp strike Amber Heard on or about December 15, 2015,
No.
correct?
Correct.
Did you see Miss Heard that night?
Yes.
Did you notice any bruising or other signs of injury?
Yes, pretty significant.
What did you observe?
I noticed specifically she had pretty significant bruising on the inside of both eye sockets, kind of extending down the bridge of her nose, and her forehead was red.
But you have no first-hand knowledge of how that injury occurred.
That's correct.
Are you aware that she made Amber Heard made a television appearance the next day?
Yes.
Do you ever see Mr. Depp take drugs, either prescription drugs or drugs that were not by prescription?
Yes.
How many times?
I can't speculate on the number of times, to be honest.
So curious to see what people are thinking about this line of testimony. I've watched only some of it. As you know, I did make a post at some point saying I was taking a break when Amber Heard was on the stand. I just, and I think that a lot of people that have been live streaming this trial and trying to do some sort of reactionary coverage have highlighted that, this type of case is important for so many reasons. And I think, but I also think it can be very triggering and provoke a lot of different emotions for a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. So I think it's really important to remember to take care of yourself. If you're watching something that could be triggering for different reasons or just not good for you in general. So I chose to step away when certain witnesses were on the stand, and I've kind of come back as I can, but I was definitely much more engaged with the beginning of the trial than I am. But that's not to say that I haven't been watching it privately or watching other live streams, specifically Emily D. Baker. I think she's amazing. She's a lawyer that's been reacting to the entire trial, as far as I know, live, and it's been really informative to witness her live streaming and giving her reactions as a lawyer. So that's been really good. I highly recommend her channel. And like I said, it's been interesting to hear. This guy sounds like he was very much of a caretaker type friend, which seems to be a theme with Amber. She finds people that are very caretaking. I did watch some of the testimony of her ex-friend, Rocky, I think was her nickname or whatever. And when asked why they weren't friends anymore, she said something to the extent that she wanted to pursue and give more time to her other relationships and friendships. And it just kind of, for me as a therapist, kind of confirms the patterns of people that might be diagnosed with certain personality disorders, that they can be all-consuming type friends, and they can have a lot of very high needs and very intense needs, and have expectations of you being able to be there for them day and night. So I'm definitely hearing this and seeing this a lot, and it is hard to listen to some of these events, and it's hard sometimes to know what to believe, or what, nobody truly knows all that has happened in this relationship. But I do think it's so important. This trial is so important for so many different reasons. And I think that regardless of what the outcome is, or who said what, and whatever the truth or not truth of some of these things that are being portrayed throughout the trial, I think it's just really important to learn what we can from these people, and to remember that they are people and human beings, and not just caricatures. They're human beings with feelings and family and friends. So yeah, it's been quite the trip so far. And I do have admiration for people, in these situations, that have to be, their lives are on view for everyone. So I hope that whoever has been watching along with me has learned some things along the way. And I think I know they're both, countersuing each other for defamation. And I think that's a really important theme just alone, just that regardless of whether something's true or not true, when you make a claim against someone for abuse or anything very serious, at the end of the day, it does matter whether it's true or not true. I'm not trying to say that, but it still does very severe damage to someone's reputation, mental health, career, family and friend relationships. So it's something to keep in mind, because, like I said, even if it's not true, it has a very, very detrimental effect on someone's life and livelihood, likely. So I hope everyone has a great day. I'm just doing a little streaming today. I hope you've enjoyed my little mini streaming, and I will be back. And have a lovely day, everyone. Take good care.